Hello friends, in this modern Indian class, we will try to remember some of the Indian National Congress sessions. Often many people, many students, many aspirants feel that remembering the Indian National Congress sessions is very difficult, and the reason is that they will try to remember the data in a wrong way. They will try to memorize the Congress sessions, years, their presidents, etc. That is one reason why they will not be able to remember and recollect all this data, because they try to memorize. History is one subject where instead of memorizing, if you try to understand some concepts behind and learn these facts or events, you will recollect and you can remember it in a longer duration of time. So the first mistake most of the students do is try to memorize it without understanding anything. And the second problem is that they will try to remember every data. For example, Indian National Congress sessions, the first session of Indian National Congress started in 1885 and until 1947, the students would try to remember all the sessions in some way, in some order. Every session they will try to remember. This is also another mistake which they do, because all the sessions are not important. But you have to know those sessions which are important, and all those sessions which are important, that you have to know. Instead of knowing all the sessions without understanding, it is essential that you have to know those sessions which are important, and which are the important sessions, how it has to be remembered, we will discuss in this slide. We all know that Indian National Congress was found in the year 1885. The first session of Indian National Congress was found in the year 1885. Was held in the year 1885, and it was held in a place which is called Bombay. And just I will be highlighting those sessions, those presidents, which are the important events which happened in those sessions. So if you simply follow these slides, I can guarantee that you will remember minimum 10 sessions after the first view of this class. So the first session of the Indian National Congress was held in a place which is Bombay, and it was held in the year 1885. You should know that the founders of the Indian National Congress decided that every year they have to organize one session, which is an annual session. Until 1920, normally Congress was held only once in a year. The Congress session was held only once in a year. Normally it was held in the month of December. So up to 1920, for information, only one session was held. So the first session was held in the year 1885, Bombay. Second, one more thing which you have to understand is that when the president of the Indian National Congress was to be decided, that was decided and the opportunity was given to a person who is outside the place where the session was held. For example, in 1885, the session was to be held in Bombay. The president was not from the area of Bombay. It was given to somebody else. So if it was to be held in a place which is called Madras, a Madrasi did not become the president. It was passed on to somebody else. So this is how the Congress, they organized these sessions. With this basic background, we will try to understand this Congress session. The first session was held in 1885. It was in Bombay. The second session, 1886, 1887, next one, and next is 1885. We will try to remember these sessions. First was held in Bombay. Second was held in Calcutta. You should know that Calcutta by this time was the capital of India, and the first session was supposed to be held in Calcutta. Because of certain reasons, the first session was not held in Calcutta, it was switched over to Bombay. So the second session was held in a place called Calcutta, and the third important city in India during this time happens to be Madras. So the third session was passed to Madras, and the fourth important city during this time in India happens to be Allahabad. So these are the four places: 1885 Bombay, 1886 Calcutta, 1887 Madras, and 1888 Allahabad. The first president happens to be W.C. Banerjee, Umesh Chandra Banerjee, and the second president happens to be Dadabhai Naoroji, and the third president happens to be Badruddin Tiyabji, and the fourth president happens to be George Yule. You please understand one more point. The first president, he happens to be an Hindu, so the chance was given to an Hindu. Second president Dadabhai Nehruji happens to be a Parsi, and the third president Badruddin Tayabji happens to be a Muslim, and the fourth president George Joule happens to be a British. So the first 4 sessions I hope you remember, and next we will go to the next set of presidents. The next important year which happens to be in the year 1905, 1906, 1907, 1908. These years are important because in the year 1905 partition of Bengal happens. After the partitioning of Bengal and the subsequent Swadeshi boycott movements, the Congress becomes very important and the sessions of the Congress becomes very important. So in the year 1905 we happen to be that the Congress was held in a place which happens to be Banaras, and the president Gopal Krishna Gokhale. You have to remember this place, Banaras and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale being a moderate leader, and in 1905 he also founded a society which is called Servants of India Society. Just remember this date also. In 1905 he established Servants of India Society as an organization. Gopal Krishna Gokhale happens to be a moderate who happens to be the political guru of Gandhi. So 1905 Banaras session. In 1906 there is a confusion between the moderates and extremists in selection of the president, and they unanimously finally they voted for a president who happens to be Dadabhai Nehruji. Dadabhai Nehruji happens to be the grand old man of India, and he got elected by this time in 1906 for the 3rd time. So he is one of the few presidents who got elected as the Congress presidents before there is pre-independent Congress president for 3 times. So Dadabhai Nehruji got elected for the 3rd time in 1906. This happened in a place which is called Calcutta. And 1907 is a very, very important year. We all know it happened in a place which is called Surat, because Surat is important because Congress splitted in Surat. So often it has been referred as Surat split. The Surat split happened in 1907 because of the confusion between the moderates and extremists in election of the president. There are many reasons why the moderates and extremists had a fight that we will discuss in the separate classes, but in 1907 Surat split happened. Here the president happens to be Rash Bihari Ghosh. Rash Bihari Ghosh. So the choice of Rash Bihari Ghosh was not accepted by the extremist, so there was a conflict. Next, in 1908 also the session was held in Madras. In 1908 the session was held in Madras, and the same president Rash Bihari Ghosh was allowed to continue here. So these are the 4 sessions. Next we will go to another important year which is 1916, 1917, 1919, 1920, 1922, 1923, 1924, 1925. These 4 years we will club separately, and this year 1916 we will try to understand. See, 1916 the Congress which splitted in Surat, they joined together in a place which is called Lucknow. Lucknow is a place where the moderates and the extremists they came together under the presidentship of a person who is called A.C. Majumdar. A.C. means Ambika Charan Majumdar. Remember that in 1916 under the presidency of Ambika Charan Majumdar in a place which is called Lucknow, the Congress, that is the moderates extremists, came together. This moderates and extremists coming together is called Lucknow Unity. Not only that the moderates and extremists came together in Lucknow session, and the Congress plus Muslim League also they came together to work under a common program which we will discuss in later classes. So 1916 is A.C. Majumdar Lucknow session. 1917 is an important session. You can remember this because in 1916 there is an important movement which was launched, which is Home Rule movement, and the Home Rule movement was launched by a woman who is called Annie Besant. Annie Besant launched the Home Rule movement. Because of the popularity of the Home Rule movement, in 1917 Annie Besant became the president of INC, and she became the president in a place which is called Calcutta. And 1919 we all know an important event which happened in the history happens to be Jallianwala Bagh in 1919. Jallianwala Bagh happened in a place which is called Amritsar. So the place of Congress session happens to be Amritsar, you remember, and here the president happens to be Motilal Nehru. So 1919, remember Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, Motilal Nehru. Next, in 1922 sessions were held actually. From 1922 sessions, sometimes 2 sessions were held. One is a special session, another is an annual session. And here in 1920 the annual session was held in a place which is called Nagpur, and the president happens to be a Tamilian whose name happens to be Vijaya Raghava Chari. Vijaya Raghava Chari. 1920 Nagpur session is very important because the Congress constitution here was modified and Gandhi's entry in the Congress was firmly established in 1920. From 1920, this annual session, Nagpur session, Congress becomes a very important force in the Indian national movement. So Nagpur session, Vijay Raghvachari is very important. In 1920, another session, which is the Calcutta session, a special session which was headed by a person who is called Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai. Next, we will come to 1922, 23, 24, 25. 1922, we all know the non-cooperation movement was withdrawn. So when the non-cooperation movement was withdrawn, there was a confusion between the Congress whether to carry forward the movement which was started by non-cooperation movement or not. So here there is a confusion. In 1922, C.R. Das, Chittaranjan Das gives an alternative of taking part in the political sphere, taking forward the movement in the political sphere by founding a party which is called Swaraj Party. So Swaraj Party was founded in 1922. So remember 1922 Congress session, the president happens to be C.R. Das and the place happens to be Gaya session. So Gaya session, C.R. Das, Swaraj Party, you remember all 1922. 1923, you remember a place which is called New Delhi and the president happens to be the youngest president who is called Abul Kalam Azad. So Abul Kalam Azad becomes the Congress president at a very young age. So he is considered to be the youngest president of Indian National Congress. 1924 is very important and very easy because in this 1924 Mahatma Gandhi, he becomes the president of Indian National Congress. It is very important because he becomes the president of Indian National Congress for the first and last time in 1924. So 1924 Indian National Congress, Mahatma Gandhi, and the place happens to be Belgaum. And 1925, the president of the Indian National Congress happens to be Sarojini Naidu. And Sarojini Naidu is an Indian woman, first Indian woman to become the president of INC, and on the insistence of Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu becomes the president of Indian National Congress in a place which is called Kanpur. She becomes the president in 1925 in a place which is called Kanpur. Next set of events which happened in the year 1927, 1928, 1929, 1930, 1931. See the developments which start in 1927 because Simon Commission was announced in India. It was an all-white commission. It came to India in the year 1927. Immediately after the announcement of Simon Commission, there was an anti-Simon agitation which happened in India. So remember that the anti-Simon agitation happened starting from 1927. So the Congress presidents are also very important. In 1927, the president happens to be M.A. Ansari. Remember this, M.A. Ansari. M you remember for Madras. 1928-29, I always used to say father, son. Father is Motilal Nehru. 1928, son is Jawaharlal Nehru. And 1928 is Calcutta session. 1928 Calcutta session, Motilal Nehru you remember, and also you remember in this session only Nehru report was discussed. Nehru report which was drafted by Motilal Nehru under the chairmanship of Motilal Nehru, it was drafted and it was discussed in 1928 Calcutta session. 1929 Jawaharlal Nehru became the president. It was a very important session in 1929 because in 1929 a resolution which is called Purna Swaraj resolution was passed in the Congress. Purna Swaraj means complete independence. So the resolution for complete independence is passed in a place which is called Lahore. So this Lahore session of 1929 is very important. It was presided by Jawaharlal Nehru. The Purna Swaraj resolution was passed. So 1930, again the Congress continued without any session because during the time there was civil disobedience movement. So there was no sessions. Next we have 1931. In 1931, you know, a Congress session was held in a place which is called Karachi. And the president happens to be the Iron Man of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel became the president of 1931 Karachi session, and in this session only fundamental rights in the Congress were passed. Fundamental rights, what are the fundamental rights? All these things were drafted in 1931 Karachi session. It were passed during the time of Vallabhbhai Patel. And next we have a group of sessions 1936, 1938, 1939. 1936, 1937, two sessions, 1938, 1939. 1936, 1937, Jawaharlal Nehru, he became the president for these 2 consecutive years. Actually, it was not 1937, it was 1936, 36 itself. The places happens to be Lucknow, Faizpur. I will write here Lucknow, Faizpur. So, Jawaharlal Nehru became the president in 1936 in Lucknow. Again, one more session in 1936 and only, it is in Faizpur. 38-39 happens to be Subhash Chandra Bose. For 2 years he was elected consecutively, Subhash Chandra Bose, and the place happens to be Haripura, Tirupuri. Haripura, Tirupuri. Tirupuri session, which is in 1939, is an important session because a tussle happens between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi. We have no time to discuss about the tussle here. We will do a separate class to discuss the tussle between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi in the year 1939. But sufficient to note that Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from this Congress session. He resigned in the year 1939. In the place of Subhash Chandra Bose, Rajendra Prasad, he became the president. Rajendra Prasad, he became the president in 1939 after the resignation of Subhash Chandra Bose. So, in 1939, the session after Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from INC, Rajendra Prasad took over from him. So, the next session happens to be 1940, 1946, 1947. 1940, the session happens to be in a place which is called Ramgarh, and here the president happens to be Abul Kalam Azad. Who happens to be the president? I already told that he was the youngest president in 1923 New Delhi session. So, here in 1940 also he becomes the president in a place which is called Ramgarh session. 1946, the place is called Meerut, and the president happens to be J.B. Kripalani. So, J.B. Kripalani. From 1940 to 46, no Congress sessions were held because of something which is called Quit India movement. So, the Congress sessions could not be held. And in 1947, you can easily remember the session and the president because it happens to be the capital of India and the first president of India. Capital, New Delhi. So, 1947, the session is New Delhi, and the president of Indian National Congress is Rajendra Prasad, who happens to be the first president, Rajendra Prasad. So, these are the important Congress sessions which happened from 1885 to 1947. Just if you follow this simple class, easily you can remember all the Congress sessions which you have discussed. Thank you for watching the video.